Race Dynamics FuelX. Should you buy one? If you do, should you buy the Lite or the Pro? Let's start with the basics. With this bike, which is a small single, it has something of a reputation for being a bit rough running at low revs. A lot of that is inherent in the engine design. KTM have designed the bike so that it revs very quickly and decelerates very quickly to maximize engine braking. So they want a bike that's as close to a race bike as they can make and still work on the street. The problem with that is that you do that by using very light balance shaft, which at low revs makes the engine run rough. But some of that is also down to fueling to meet the emissions standards. The solution, of course, is to change the fueling, and that's what the FuelX does. It reads the signal coming from the lambda sensor, the O2 sensor, however you want to call it, and it then modifies the signal it sends up to the stock ECU, which forwards the stock ECU into changing the fueling so that the bike runs better. And if you fit the FuelX to your bike, you can expect the low rev range to be much smoother and much more rideable at slow speeds in traffic. Do you have to fit one? Absolutely not. It's certainly possible to ride a bike like this at low speeds in traffic. It just means changing your riding style. I typically on this don't spend much time in the low rev range. So what's the difference between the Lite and the Pro? Very simply, the Lite has a single setting. It's a plug and play device. You plug it in to the lambda sensor connector and that's it. There's no more input from the rider. The Lite manages all of the fueling by itself, and it doesn't matter whether you have a stock bike, whether one you've lightly modified, you might have put a different slip-on on, you might have changed the airbox lid or done any number of things. The engineers at Race Dynamics tell me that it will cope with any level of modification to the bike. So it's an auto tune. The stock ECU is also auto tune, which means it reads from the sensors and it adjusts the map, the fuel map and the ignition map on the bike to adjust for how you ride, how your bike is set up and the environment in which you ride. And that is unique to every single one of you. How the bike is set up in the UK, for me, would be very different to an Indian rider in India. The air temperature is different, the altitude may be different. I mean, if you're in Nepal and I'm at sea level in the UK, then you've got different altitude, you've got different temperatures. The bikes do self-tune to match that. And we know the stock ECUs auto-tune because there's a reset procedure to set it back to stock settings. And that wouldn't be necessary if it hadn't moved away from the stock settings. The FuelX Lite takes that to the next level because it takes away the issues with the fueling and it will provide the optimum fueling to the bike. So pure plug and play, very easy, highly recommended. The FuelX Lite is a game changer for the average rider. We've not had a product for the KTM that fits the niche that this one does. With modern emission standards getting stricter, some of the old solutions like booster plug have now faded away because they no longer work. And the only real other contender was the Rapid Bike Easy, but the Rapid Bike Easy requires some manual intervention, whereas the Lite is completely automatic. I would recommend the FuelX Lite to every street rider who's unhappy with the way the bike handles at low speeds. Now, what about the Pro? Well, the Pro, as the name suggests, is aimed at the more professional rider. Race Dynamics are a company that, as per the name, and as they are very clear themselves, make products aimed at the racing market, not the street market. And this is why they developed the FuelX, is to provide something for the street rider. If you don't understand what maps are, if you don't understand how to make maps and what's a good map and what's a bad map, then I don't recommend that you buy the Pro, and you should stick to the Lite. If you're building your own maps, and you're experienced at building your own maps, or you can get someone to build them for you, then the Pro is a good addition. If you're, for example, running the Race Dynamics Powertronics, which is really well known in the KTM Duke market, and you've developed maps for it, then the Pro can be a very good complementary solution. These are piggybacks, they work with the stock ECU. And what people are complaining about is that in the closed loop, the stock ECU overrides the map that they've built. But the Pro allows them to compensate for this. The way the FuelX Pro works is exactly the same way as the Lite. It's a very simple installation, but it has a switch on the handlebar. Now, this is not a map switch. For those of you who used to be using maps, this is an AFR switch. And what it will do is it will allow you to change the AFRs as you ride. Because the problem with fixed maps is that they're not always ideal for how you're riding and how your bike is currently set up. If you do a modification on a bike, you really should redo the map, but this allows you to work around that until you do so, and it still gets around those low rev range issues where the stock ECU is overriding your fixed map. Setting 3 on the handlebar switch is stock AFR. There are 2 settings for making it leaner, and as you go up 4, 5, 6 and so forth, then it gives you a richer AFR. And in the words of the engineers from Race Dynamics, it's trial and error to get the right setting. But if you understand what you're doing with maps, then that's not an issue. Now, I'm not recommending this to people who don't understand what I'm talking about. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, in my opinion, you shouldn't be running maps. But it's your choice, and you can if you want to. One of the things that does concern me in the discussions I'm seeing online about this is that people are saying, well, for this setup, I'm finding setting 6 is great, it gives me the most power. And that worries me, because one of the things you will find with tuning is that the most power comes when the bike is running too lean. So if setting 6 is providing with the most power, you probably should be on, for example, setting 7, which is a little bit richer. If you watch people who do dynos on their vehicles, what you'll see is they'll do all the work and then they'll do a power run, and it will produce the max power for that build. Unless they're doing a drag strip run immediately after or something like that where they don't care if the engine blows up, what they will then do is detune it to a safe tune, and that typically means making it richer. So as I say, if you're the average street rider, go for the Lite. That's my recommendation. If you know what you're doing and understand the risks of building your own maps, then go for the Pro by all means. As I say, this is a game changer. I highly recommend the FuelX for the average street rider and for the pros who have found some issues running in the closed loop with their maps. Race Dynamics sent me this for my review, but I'm not actually fitting it to my bike because I'm running the Rapid Bike Evo, which is a full auto-tune unit. So this doesn't work with my current setup. So in that sense, I am unbiased in recommending it because I think it's actually better than the Rapid Bike Easy product. I've got a separate video on how to install it on this bike, and you should find that installing it on any other bike is a very similar process. So you want to check that out, it should be linked up here. So thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon.